Hello, Arkansas, and welcome to this week's edition of Arkansas Money Talk, brought to you by the team of Retire Path Wealth. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio, we have Dale Colclaser. He is the President of Wealth Management, and Mark Smalling, President of Insurance Management. Dale, Mark, it's always a joy to see you. How are you this week?
Excellent. Thank you.
Doing well. It's
Good.
always good to be with you.
Well, likewise. Well, you've put together another really fun show for our viewers at home. You know, the reality is that a lot of folks stop looking forward to birthdays as we get older. There's a lot that can come with aging that might not necessarily be a whole lot of fun, right? Gray hairs, aching backs,
Right.
things of that nature. But if we peel back the curtain and look a little deeper, there's actually several different birthdays that you can look forward to from a retirement planning perspective. Some key dates that you want to pay attention to so that you can make the most out of your retirement. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. This episode is called Mark Your Calendars, Big Birthdays to Look Forward to with Retirement Planning. And we're going to be going through the decades of our 50s, 60s, and 70s and things that you need to be aware of and paying attention to. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the first big milestone, age 50. What do our viewers need to know about this big birthday as it relates to their financial planning?
Yes, well, Christian, that's great because the idea is that about age 50 is when a lot of people really kind of start to begin to think about getting serious about retirement planning. They maybe begin to look around and realize, gosh, it's just kind of right down the road. So at age 50 is kind of when catch-up provisions have the ability to begin inside IRA accounts or other retirement accounts where you've got the ability to increase your contribution limits at that point.
And not just IRAs, but all the workplace retirement plans, right?
That's correct.
That's
That is correct.
And those amounts keep going up every year, so you can really make up for some lost time.
Yes, in many cases they do get indexed for inflation as well.
Right, wonderful. Well, after age 50, it's funny, there's a lot of kids I know that look forward to turning a half birthday, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure your children did at some point. I'm going to be 5 and a half. That tends to stop at some point, but there's a big half birthday in the decade of our 50s as well, age 59 and a half. Oh my goodness, so much happens with this birthday. So, Mark, what do they need to know about 59 and a half?
Well, when you're 59 and a half, in a lot of plans, employer plans, you have the ability to do an in-service withdrawal at that point in time.
So explain what that is.
Well, that's being able to take money, and usually it's your contributions that you've made into the plan yourself that you can actually roll out into an individual IRA that gives you more options about where you can invest it instead of just what's available inside your 401k or 403b plans at your employer.
Right, so it's important to note that most people, with 59 and a half is that magic age that you can touch that money, because
That's
if you
correct.
touch
That's
it
true.
prior to that, you're hit with a 10% penalty.
That's
Yep.
correct.
Because at 59 and a half, the other opportunity that you have, even besides the in-service distributions, is the ability to then start taking distributions to use for other purposes, Roth conversions, for
Right.
example. If you've never been one that's contributed into Roth, and Roth makes sense, and again, if you don't know, that'll be one reason to call today, but the idea that I can have and take money out of a plan, because I can't do a Roth conversion directly from an employer plan to a Roth IRA, I must make an additional step of going to a traditional IRA first to make that conversion. But I can begin doing that at 59 and a half. The reality of it is even if I'm still working, if the income situation works to where the tax brackets work out and make a lot of sense, then Roth conversion can be a great opportunity at that age as well.
So who is the ideal candidate for a Roth conversion? Because we hear that a lot, and
Okay.
I think a lot of people are confused about, am I eligible? Can I do it? Should I do it? When should I do it? So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, there's a couple things that are really simple in there. Is can I do it? Is it's just simply age-based.
Okay.
At 59 and a half, I've got the ability to move money from my qualified plan to an IRA. That's the in-service distribution part. That's just simply age-based. Also, your plan must allow it, of course. Roth conversion is typically going to be for those people who have saved substantial funds already in a qualified type of a plan, but that's not necessarily the only case. It's really personalized, where your income sits, where your savings need and your income goals, and then also where your target retirement date is. And so all of those factors can fit in,
Right.
but we can help do that analysis to see which one of those contributions makes the most sense for you personally.
And of course, if you do this as early as age 59 and a half, talk about the benefit of how that money can now grow tax-free and, really work towards your retirement in a positive way.
Right, yeah, so all the money that you convert to a Roth that grows tax-free, and you're able to take that out without incurring extra income later on in your retirement, which might increase your taxes on other things. We just find that this time in your 50s, in between that 50 and 59 and a half, is a great time to take a look at your situation and actually come in and devise what we call a written income plan and put that together for you so we can actually project where we're going to be. Because one of the other things that comes in, we talk about all these factors. One of the factors is, what is your retirement income goal? Because depending on what your retirement income goal may determine whether or not doing a Roth conversion actually makes sense or for you in the long run.
And the other thing, it's starting earlier, as you mentioned. You still have that 5-year period that the account has to be in existence if it's a Roth IRA for the income to come out tax-free.
Okay.
So if I'm starting at 60, my retirement date is 65, I have the ability to get those 5-year time frame in before I need to start taking and having access to the growth in that account as well.
Right, and this is why you have to sit down in the financial planning environment to look at all these pieces and how they fit together. Well, I know, Mark, you in particular are meeting with a lot of folks who may come in for the first time. Would you say that a lot of folks are in this decade of their 50s when they're meeting with you? I mean, I know you meet with people all over the spectrum, but...
Right. We do. We see quite a few people. It is kind of when they hit 50, it's kind of that magic number,
right,
where people start thinking about it. Where am I? I've got this, employer plan that's sitting here that I really hadn't paid that much attention to. How am I doing? What does my Social Security benefit look like? We're starting to pull all these numbers together to kind of see, see where they are.
Well, I think the realization of it too, Kristen, is that they begin to realize I got all this stuff out here, and I have all these things that I've done towards this, and I really just don't know how they will all work together.
Exactly.
And so, if there's anybody out there today, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, gosh, I have all these pieces put out here. I don't know exactly how they work. I don't know if I should Roth or not to Roth, where those scenarios fit in. I kind of have a concept of what I want my retirement goal to look like. I have a target to begin to shoot at. And we need just a little assistance in helping put those things together and see what makes the most sense. I highly encourage you today to reach out, call the number on the screen, click the QR code. Let's get that first appointment set up to come in, and let's get you a roadmap getting started and get you moving down towards your own personal retire path.
Wonderful. Dale and Mark, thank you so much. I like that. To Roth or not to Roth? That's a great question, right? Again, we encourage you to receive your very own complimentary written income plan from Dale and Mark and the team of Retire Path Wealth. It's really simple. You just need to call that number on the bottom of your screen, 866-724-3893. You're also welcome to take out your smartphone, and if you open up that camera app, point, click, and scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary visit that way as well. Well, we've covered the decade of our 50s. When we come back, stay with us. We're going to hit some more big birthdays in the decade of your 60s. Stay with us.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Arkansas Money Talk. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with both Dale Colclaser and Mark Smalling from Retire Path Wealth. We are talking today about important retirement milestone birthdays. And in the first segment, we covered some key birthdays during your decade of your 50s. Congratulations, we've now moved on to the decade of the 60s, right?
Right.
So the first big birthday in this decade is, without a doubt, age 62. And why is that?
Well, I mean, 62 is the earliest date you can actually take your Social Security benefits on your own retirement benefits. So that's the earliest date, and
that's when you become eligible.
That's when
right?
you become eligible, and we work with a lot of employer groups, and so we get a lot of questions when people turn 62 because people are still actively at work.
Right.
Well, if you're actively at work and you turn 62, if you call the Social Security Administration and ask them, "Can I take my benefits?" They're going to tell you, yes, you can.
Right, because that's a true statement.
It is.
You can.
You can. You're eligible.
Right.
You're 62. You made it to that date. But it doesn't mean that you should, because there are earning limitations on what you can earn without having your benefits reduced.
Yep.
And there's a lot of, we've seen people get in trouble by taking their benefits while they're still working.
Yes,
and have
for
to pay
sure.
those benefits back.
Right,
Right.
because one basic thing is they're not going to ask you the questions, of
How much
are
you
you still
make.
working and all those kind of things, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, they just don't.
Well, there's so much that goes into Social Security, and it's always broken my heart when people think, yay, I've turned 62, time to turn it on, without
right.
doing all these other planning pieces, because what that does is it locks you in at a lower amount for the rest of your life. But then to your point, too, if you're still working, the amount you get isn't necessarily the amount you get to keep. A lot of people don't realize that.
That's right. Most people are going to take anywhere between a 25 and 30% reduction by taking their benefits early.
Right.
And that's a reduction that's going to be with their Social Security benefits forever. Even if they switch over to spousal benefits later on, it's going to reduce the amount of
Right.
their spousal benefits or survivor benefits in the
Yep.
future.
Well, and now that Mark's just mentioned spousal, the other is if this is the larger the benefit, that we know statistically one spouse is going to live at least typically 3 years only on one benefit. If that's the higher the benefits, you've just now locked your surviving spouse into a much lower income benefit
Exactly.
later as well.
Yep. So many things that aren't really, explained fully, I think,
Right.
with Social Security. And the reality is, if you call the Social Security Administration, they can give you information. They are not legally allowed to give you personalized advice based
right.
on your individual situation. So the only way you can kind of get that advice is by working with a team such as Retire Path Wealth, because you can really sit down, look at a person's individual situation, and figure out the optimal time for them to start those benefits.
Well, and that is correct. And I mean, and there's other things to consider when you're 62, especially if you're planning to retire early. You've got to start thinking about your health benefits, because you're not quite eligible for our next topic, which
Yes.
is Medicare.
Right.
And so when you're not eligible for that, you've got to figure out how to fill the gap, and that can be expensive
Yep.
oftentimes.
Yes, so much happens in our 60s, so we're going to keep it moving here, and we're going to come back to that concept of Social Security planning as well. But to your point, Mark, that next big birthday is age 65, and with that comes the very important M word.
Medicare.
Right.
And so we get a lot of questions about that, and still with Medicare, as with there's early Social Security benefits, you still have people that are working, 65 and later, and what do they do? Is it better to go on Medicare? Is it better to stay on their group health plan? If I'm aging in and I'm already retired, what do I do? What plan do I choose? There's so many different plans out there. Do I go
Yes.
with original Medicare with a Medicare supplement and a Part D plan, or do I go the Medicare Advantage route? And those are questions that are different for every individual, and it's something that we do, because everything we do from a planning perspective at Retire Path, we take the fiduciary responsibility, not just with the finances, but with everything, trying to put you in the best place possible for yourself.
Sure. It's looking at everything from that comprehensive, holistic point of view. We always say this on the show: how you make a decision in one area of your financial life does and will affect all the others. This is why you
right.
can't afford not to look at it from that comprehensive
Right.
perspective. And I know, Mark, and I've shared this on previous shows that we've done together too, but what really sets you all apart is that you do this Medicare planning, and you do it as part of that overall plan, because not every financial advisor out there does that.
No, a lot of advisors don't. We believe it's actually part of the company that I oversee and handle. We believe it's important that we are looking for efficiencies and cost savings, and because all the dollars that we don't spend on medical coverage and our health care, we can use that for other things in life, actually enjoying retirement, going on trips and things like that. We just believe it being efficient with everything.
And Kristen, it's one of those things that also, when people come in to meet with us, they happen to notice right away. Is they'll say, why have I never had these conversations with my current advisor before?
Right.
And, our answer is always typically, I don't know why, because we believe it's so important, but the simple thought is that we're currently in a world where people just don't want to address things they don't have an expertise in, is which simply why we've put this relationship together so that we have the expertise in all those areas to be able to address those situations.
Yep. Well, we've covered age 62, we've covered age 65. Now we need to move on down to something known as your full retirement age, which depending on the year you were born is either going to be age 66 or age 67. So let's talk about
somewhere in between.
Could be as specific as age 67 in 3 months, right?
Yeah. So well, they actually go up by 2 months, but from 66, so it goes 66 2 months, 66 4 months,
right?
And it is dependent on what year you were born, and so it starts if you're born in 1954 to 1960. At 1960, everyone's at their full retirement age is at 67 at that point. So what full retirement age is, that's the point in time that you receive your full benefit without any reductions
Meaning
for taking it early.
Your full Social Security benefit.
Your full Social Security benefit.
Yep.
A lot of people come to our office and they have it's all this misinformation around it that's the time they can retire. That's my retirement date because that's what Social Security told me. It's not the case. You can retire before that if you like.
Right.
It's just when you don't have to take a reduction for benefits at that time.
I see you laughing. You probably have a good story about this.
Well, it's just so common that that's the way it happens, is that you walk in and those are, one of the basic questions you're trying to find out, because again, as we always talk about, we're looking for that target to shoot at. And you ask someone, so, what is your retirement objective? And they're like, well, Social Security says. And it's like, that's really just the date that the math calculation begins on.
Right, that's when you are able to receive 100% of your full benefit that you're entitled to.
That is correct.
Right, but that has nothing bearing to do on...
So now, you can start a month earlier, you can start a month later. It's just going to change that number just slightly.
Right, but the good news is if you're still working at this point and you decide to turn Social Security on, talk about the difference once you hit at your FRA, your full retirement age. You don't have to worry about givebacks.
That's right.
That's
There's no reduction at that amount at that time if you are earning other income. And so if you're one of those people that's just, there's so many folks out there that are just like, gosh, I'm going to start this as soon as I possibly can. Let's at least have that as our soon as we can date in most cases if we are still working.
Right.
But that's one of the conversations that Mark has with people all the time is, hey, here's what this will cost you. If that's your decision, that's okay. We're always good with clients' decisions. We just want them to always know what the repercussions are of the decisions that they make.
Well, and it's empowering people. Like, you're providing the information. It's your money. You get to decide how you want to do it, right?
And that's one reason we run Social Security maximization reports to make sure that we are maximizing their Social Security benefits. For a lot of people, that is going to be their largest retirement benefit. And so we need to make sure that it works within their plan. And so that's one thing I'd like to offer you. If you have questions about what goes on in your 60s, whether it has to do with Social Security, Medicare, we here at RetirePath are here to help. We'd like to offer to do a Social Security maximization report for you, or look at your Medicare plan, and if you want to compare that to what you might have at work, just to see what might be the best option for you, please call the number, scan the QR code, and schedule a time to come in.
Wonderful. Mark, Dale, thank you so much. As you shared, all these pieces make up that complimentary written income plan that you can receive today by simply calling 866-724-3893. Or again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will get you connected as well. More on this week's edition of Arkansas Money Talk right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Arkansas Money Talk. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with both Dale Colclaser and Mark Smalling from Retire Path Wealth. Today's show is all about retirement milestone birthdays, and we've covered a lot of ground on our show so far today. I want to go back. In the last segment, we were talking about reaching your full retirement age, which for most people, of course, it depends on the year you were born, but around 67, right?
Right.
So what happens now between 67 and 70? Because that can be some key dates to be thinking about
Right.
as well.
So during those years until you reach age 70, which is the maximum you can defer, you actually earn delayed retirement credits of 8% per year for each year you deferred beyond your...
Each year you defer taking Social Security.
Yes.
Yep.
You defer your Social Security benefits, so each year you're going to get an 8% simple increase. So yeah, if your full retirement age is 67, the maximum amount that you could receive is an additional 24% above your full retirement age benefit.
Which, for a lot of folks, it could make sense to wait until age 70, right?
Oh, it absolutely could. Now, the one thing we always have to remember is we have to have other income
Yes.
to make up that difference.
Right.
One common error that I often see people in their thinking process is, oh, I have all this cash money that I have set aside and saved for this particular time frame. And in many cases, if we're deferring Social Security, it makes a whole lot more sense for people to go ahead and begin distributions from their qualified plan or their qualified dollars. It's back
Meaning
to that.
the tax-deferred money.
That is correct. That tax-deferred money. It's almost a thought of a Roth conversion concept, but instead of moving the money to a Roth IRA, we're just simply utilizing those dollars. But it's the same sense, especially until through the end of 2025 tax year, when we know tax brackets are going to be lower than what current law says they change to.
Right.
It may make a lot more sense to use the taxable dollars than it is to use those non-taxable dollars that are in our savings.
That's why it's so critical to have tax planning as part of your overall financial plan. To
It all
look
seems
at,
to circle around,
right?
doesn't it? That's
I
right.
mean, when to withdraw, how much to withdraw, from where to withdraw it. But another thing you had mentioned earlier, Dale, which I think is important for married couples to think about, I'm sure you see this a lot, where maybe it makes sense for one of the spouses to
That's
go
right.
ahead and start collecting Social Security, but then
Yes.
allow the other spouse's benefit to grow to the maximum at 70, because once one spouse passes away, you lose a benefit, but you get to keep the higher of the two. So.
Well, a lot of the major consideration of deferral is longevity. And if we have longevity in our family, it can very commonly make sense to make that deferral. But then if we have a health change, so commonly in our office, I have people that come in and go, gosh, Dale, there's no way I'm going to make a 5-year guaranteed decision to wait from age 65 to 70.
Right.
Where the reality is we try to explain it to them is, what we're really asking you to consider is 60 30-day decisions. Because the reality of it is if my situation changes or my health changes,
Right.
all I do is hop on SSA.gov, I apply for my benefit, and the check starts the next month.
Right,
And
yeah.
so it's not a guaranteed long-term deferral, but a lot of short-term decisions while it still continues to make sense.
Yeah, okay. But the bottom line with Social Security, there's no point in waiting beyond age 70 to start your Social Security benefit, because the amount of the check will not rise. So that brings us to the next half birthday, if you will. Did you know that 70 and a half can be an important birthday? And not for a reason you might think. It has nothing to do anymore with RMDs, which we will get to in a little bit. But what is this other milestone of 70 and a half? What can that mean for someone?
Well, those are when you can actually make qualified charitable distributions, and that has not changed, even though the RMD ages have changed a couple of times over the last few years. When you can make QCDs,
right? Yes, there's so many acronyms.
Yeah, when you can make QCDs, it stayed the same. So it's 70 and a half, and it's a way of people that are making charitable contributions but are still using standard deduction to take advantage of both, and you can make up to $100,000 per individual or $200,000 per couple out of those QCDs.
Right, and the benefit is that you, as the donor, receive the full tax deduction, but then the charity receives the full amount. So it's a win-win for both parties involved.
Yes, and it's not technically a deduction. It's actually
right.
you're just moving around the tax bracket.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you
So
don't have
where
to
you're
pay.
not actually having to contribute.
Correct,
But what we're
yes.
doing, and it's kind of it can be a double positive, if there is such a thing out there, is because I'm required at certain ages, obviously now 73, moving to 75, to take certain amounts of money out of my
Right.
401k plans or my qualified dollars, even if I don't need the money. So it helps to meet that federal requirement.
Right.
But the benefit is the charities are tax-free.
Yes.
They don't pay income taxes, so we avoid the taxation on the dollars almost all completely.
Right. No, that's an important distinction for sure.
Right.
So now age 73, right? Because this has been a constant law-changing thing, is what age do you have to start taking your RMDs, your required minimum distributions? The Secure 2.0 Act now changed that to age 73. So what do folks need to understand about this milestone?
Yeah, so today it's 73, moving to 75 over time. And so for each year, that scale is going to move out to that point of 75 from where we are today. The reality of it is that in doing our income planning, one of our complete objectives is to try to make those projections forward based on what we expect growth rates to be. We expect what our asset usage is, and we try to preempt these issues occurring. Because the danger of that required minimum distribution is if that account has grown to a certain amount, it may then force us to take more money than we need to and inadvertently push us into a higher income tax bracket.
Right.
Well, yes, it is only on those last dollars, but that's just not a sufficient use of our distribution options. The reality is that most people understand once they look at it that, hey, this makes a lot of sense to proactively address this scenario. And again, it's another question that we often get asked. Why has my current advisor never talked to me about these things? And again, I'll go back to the default that if your current advisor for taxes is a CPA, they're accounting for what you've already done. They do a really good job of that.
They're looking
but
in the past.
They're
Yep.
looking at the past, but most are not proactively looking to the future because they're so busy during tax time, probably
Right.
is one of the main reasons. And the other is that other advisors are so focused on rate of return conversations in most cases that they're not really concerned that much about taxes as it is.
Absolutely. Well, it's important to presence with RMDs. If you get it wrong, if you don't take the right amount or you take the wrong amount from the wrong account, then you can also be hit with a massive penalty, 25% on top of the tax that you owe. This is why it's so important to have these conversations and get this right so that people don't fall prey to that.
Yeah, because depending on how many separate types of accounts you have, you've got to go and address all of those as well.
For sure. Well, I know
Yes.
we've covered 25 years of important birthdays. Any parting words to our
Yes,
viewers?
and so the one thing I'll do is I'll say again, if you have any questions about how RMDs, do QCDs apply to me and how can they be of an advantage to me? Should I consider deferral for Social Security? Should I consider taking qualified dollars today? If you have any or all of those questions, I highly encourage you to reach out today by calling the number, scanning the QR code. Let's get that first appointment started and get you headed down your own personal retire path.
Wonderful. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next week.